Hello and welcome to Connect. I'm your host, Randy Shabilo. On today's show, we'll have Saskatoon developer Brent Suer talking about redeveloping the Star Phoenix property. And as always, we'd like to connect with you. Email us at rtvsaskatoon@rci.rogers.com. Find us on Facebook at ConnectYXE and catch past interviews on our YouTube channel. Saskatoon skyline continues to change, and we have Brent Suer with us today, a mastermind and a definite downtown booster of our city. And thanks so much for coming to the studio.
Well, thanks for having me, Randy.
I want to talk about you and the construction world, that everything that you're doing. You've done this for a little while, but you're definitely focused on the downtown area and some of the buildings that you've acquired. Can we talk a little bit about some of the properties you do own and how you've transformed them?
The first one where people got to know a bit about who we were was the old police station. Mm-hmm. And we purchased that in 2016 and transformed that building into putting a new skin on it and adding a floor onto it where they used to park on that floor. And then about 3.5 to 4 years ago, we signed BHP to a lease there. And they occupied the building later last year, in about October, mm-hmm. August, October. And the building is pretty well full now after 9 years. So.
And it would be like a complete redo on the inside. You just can't leave a lot of the offices that were there, would have to be remodeled completely, I would imagine.
Yeah, for sure. We demoed the whole building, mm-hmm. Basically brand new mechanical, electrical systems in there, and put brand new elevators in the front to accommodate that, and yeah, so that was a lot of work.
What happens when you look at a building like that? I mean, we talk about there needs to be labor costs going to take everything out, and then labor costs to put everything in. There must be a way that you can look and see, I've got to do this much work to get it habitable for office, for any type of warehouse or whatever it is you're buying. Do you have an eye for seeing how you can transform that, and this will be a good space for an accounting firm, as an example, or BHP in this particular case?
I just have I look at the building and I look at the structure. Where's the cost? What am I going to have to spend to get that building back up into a condition that we like? And years ago, I used to be when money was tighter for me, I always had to be a little more conscious of that. But for me now, it's about making sure I got the quality of a great building. And still, hopefully, there's a reasonable return on that for me, which is important. And that's what I want to do.
What happens when you get an older building and there's asbestos, mold, environmental concerns, things like that? Do you kind of stay away from that, and that's a project for someone else, or do you kind of stumble onto instances where, gosh, I didn't think there was asbestos in this building, but now I've got to deal with that? Has that happened? Oh
yeah, I mean, but we would do our due diligence before. We make sure that we do the proper, like we have a phase 1 or phase 2 in a building prior to purchasing it. And or if we know there's environmental concerns, which could be in the ground or inside the building, example asbestos, we take those into account, and that gets considered when we give our, what we want to pay for that building. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'm aware of that, and we do our due diligence.
With the downtown library that's across from City Hall, that's another acquisition that you made. They're going to move, I presume, in 27 if the new one is ready. Mm-hmm. Does that sound right?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. Any plans for that property?
Yep. I plan on adding on to that building. We're just very near determining what that is. Mm-hmm. Hopefully at least a couple floors. And then the basement, we'll turn that into parking. by putting a ramp going into that.
Yep.
And we'll try and maximize the parking in the basement and or on the surface if there's any locations available, because it's still very important to lease a building. You have to have parking, and you need to maximize the parking to attract your tenants and to hold them. And parking is still a very big priority and mandatory to the success of any property
To
you're going to
attract
have
people to rent
downtown.
that, yeah.
For
What
sure.
happens with, I guess, is it the Scotia Centre? I'm not sure how you want to define that.
Yep.
Where the old
We can call
Capitol-
it that for now. We'll rename that, but that's the name of
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
So that's where the old Capitol Theatre was,
Mm-hmm.
and you've taken over that. How have you seen the market in Saskatoon? We keep hearing there's a lot of industrial pressure, but mining is growing, so the need for architects, engineers, professionals to have office space, is that something that you kind of lean towards with attracting people of that caliber and magnitude for what they're doing province-wide to come here?
For sure. That building, we've had very good, we purchased that about 3.5 years ago, both towers and the main floor. And we've had very good success on the floors. We still have a bit of vacancy there yet. And the main floor, it's been more difficult on the retail, the main floor, than we would have liked. But right now, again, I'm talking to a couple people about moving into that main floor space, and hopefully we'll have some success with that. On the office side, though, we have existing tenants within the building now taking more space because
Right.
they're busy and growing,
Yep.
and that's very positive, along with numerous new tenants in the building as well, and continue to have good interest. I'm hoping that maybe optimistically in 2.5 years I could have that both towers full, and along with that, hopefully we'll have more success on the main floor and get that area filled up with another coffee shop where we have a vacant space right now, and I'd like to see a flower shop, maybe physiotherapy / nails, barber shop in there. Jewelry store would be nice also, and just get that mall much more busier, which would be good for our existing tenants that are in retail. They want to see it to be busier.
Yep. You're a big booster of the city and a big champion for a lot of the causes. What do you see supporting businesses, including yours, if we look at the downtown event and entertainment district or the new trade and convention center? That has to play into, I guess, the long-term vision and goal for getting more people living and working downtown, entertainment options, and everything very close in a very walkable city, if you will. Do you have any thoughts on the convention center or the deed as we know it?
For sure. I think it's critical to the growth of our city and our province that we provide amenities to our existing residents that are here, but also to attract new residents, which involves any businesses that are trying to attract talent. All our mining companies, and to attract other businesses that want to come here,
Yep.
Along with, head offices. Now, head offices, that gets tricky because we need to have better services at our airport. We gotta provide more direct flights, and that's within Canada, but also into the United States. And I would recommend that we talk to our big mining giants, the Chemicals, the Nutrients, BHPs, Co-op, all of them, and I'm not trying to miss any of them, K plus S, any of them, and find out where is that direct flight that we should have. And the government has did that. They've subsidized that flight to Minneapolis, and I think recently I heard they're renewing that. That's very good, but we need to do much more. And I believe, even though we may have to subsidize that, the government, which they sometimes are doing with that Minneapolis flight, it's still, it's money in the bank for us 10, 20 times over, because, we attract that talent, other businesses, and then hopefully other head offices that come here with all the activity we got going on. We want those head offices in Saskatchewan, Saskatoon or Regina. And we need to have provide better flights out of the airport. We got a beautiful airport, but we need to get rid of some of those connecting flights
and make it more directed. The ease of
absolutely,
transportation.
absolutely. We can't do that soon enough. And
what happens with? I guess on the convention side of things, that's just across First Avenue from the mall as an example, but you also have some other properties that rebuilding that nucleus of downtown Riversdale, Broadway, the three founding neighborhoods that made up the city of Saskatoon. Do you see some opportunities if you go to other cities, you go to a game or an event for a band or a rock concert, 10, 15,000 people, or even, Atlanta, 60,000 in their stadiums. Do you see any links between the deed, the arena, the facilities, and the convention center that has to gel at some point to spill off into the surrounding blocks around that?
Yeah, I got to apologize. I got off track there a bit, Randy, because I got off into the airport, didn't I? Rather than talking about the deeds. So, the convention center, we cannot make that big enough, because the bigger conventions we attract, the more people that come here to visit our city. And, the more hotels we build downtown, the more restaurants, and those people all provide, that creates economic activity and, temporary, construction work, and then permanent work. And those people and those businesses all pay taxes, property taxes, which helps, to reduce, our citizens of Saskatoon's property taxes.
Sure.
Exactly, sure. Along with the arena, because it brings, with that arena and that convention center, everybody builds around it, from hotels to, I believe if we have the, the deeds go forward, the arena, you'll see, I wouldn't be surprised to see a couple more condo high-rises go right downtown, like in that area, even just to be close, along with hotels, restaurants, retail, all kinds of et cetera. I think it'll explode our downtown.
What happens with the old Star Phoenix building on Fifth Avenue? It's most of the entire block, is it not? That has been purchased. So you have a really sound building in the middle and two parking lots north and south of it. Tell us what you're envisioning there and what you think can work.
Okay, so the existing Star Phoenix building has a basement and a main and a second floor right now existing. So the basement, I've converted that into parking already. That's done with a new ramp going in, new lighting, new fire alarm, new card access, new cameras, secured, and the main floor can be converted once if I fill the basement up. The second floor will stay vacant for a while until we, hopefully build, the first tower, which the first one will be the south tower, which is 35 floors approximately, one or the other. But the grocery store, which we've had discussions with, grocery stores, will be on the north side of the existing building main floor.
Understood, yeah.
And, that has a 12,000 pound freight elevator, so we can store on the, they have additional dry storage, et cetera, on the second floor above it, which will be good. The back alley lane will have access to, providing a loading dock, so they can come in and unload properly. And that's an important amenity to that, to my project there, of course, because that helps me to market that project in a big way. But also that whole surrounding area. We need a grocery store downtown, and I believe that will, again, create much more economic activity of, building more residential units in that area besides, my project, that I want to
You just
build.
mentioned 34, 35 stories. So how many units would you anticipate that to be on that entire site? Living doors, I guess, if you will. How many doors would you see there?
So we've been designing that for about 14, 15 months already. That 34 stories in combination with how that ties into the existing building with parking and amenities in the existing building. So we'll have one underground. The 34 stories will include one parking below grade and then 6 above. So floors 1 to 6, and then floors 7 to 25 will be rentals, and then floors 26 to 34/35 will be condos we will sell.
Wow. I would imagine the views from that level would be spectacular with the river.
Yeah,
Everything
yeah,
in that
for
area.
sure. Yeah, floors like floor 26 approximately will be as high as any building in the city, so you should have pretty clear views, and up from there. And we'll provide amenities. You haven't exactly determined how that's all going to fit because we haven't got to the top floor of how, where the penthouse suites will be, and how, we need a mechanic room up there, but we also want to provide amenities up there, and we're just trying to determine how that's all going to fit in, because that's pretty expensive real estate up there, and important to to the success or even of building that project, because things have to be profitable and on budget, and just hopefully making that project viable and for me to go ahead with it.
Do you, just to maybe share from your inside voice telling you, do you drive by one day and say, gosh, that would be a great place for a couple of towers? Or how do you envision building, demolishing, adding on, retrofitting, renovating? Does it just come naturally, or years of experience and education's expensive, they say?
Well, I was thinking of, I was going to call you, Randy, and then I decided not to help me with the demolition. But I know you're busy farming, though.
Yeah. Bring my backhoe in.
But seriously, I like that project as soon as it come for sale, because once you do this for a while, it's like anything we do, you do it because you obviously like it, and so you have. As soon as I see something, I right away will have a vision for that, or whatever that might be. Was that condos originally? I'm not sure. I mean, I just like the site. Like I think the site was in a very good location, and the building had good bones. 2/3 of that building is concrete construction, so that's where I can add on to that existing building. About I'm going to add 3 floors onto the existing Star Phoenix, beside where the grocery store is. So they're about 21,000 square feet floor plates that I'm going to add on. So it's about another 60,000-ish square feet I'm going to add on. So so I see that. I look right away for parking. How that's going to fit in, because you need that. And then, what can I do with that building, and how can I make it, transform that building into, for example, something like, the old police station, where I remove most of the skin and then put a new, a new exterior look to that, and try and make it look great. And,
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
What, there's lots of people, there's no way they say that, but there's no shortage of people willing to tell other people how to spend their money. But how do you look at the spiral staircase in that front entrance of the Star? Is that something that can be incorporated somehow?
For sure. Yeah, we'll keep that.
Yeah,
we'll keep that. We'll have to bring it up to code, because it's not up to code, but it's very nice, and that will play a role in the front of that building.
Yeah.
And there's also the clock. We talked a little bit about that, and of course that clock has got significant
I guess, heritage value.
heritage to
yeah.
our, to the building, that site, and the people that was, put up to commemorate, and that'll stay. How that's going to fit in that corner where it is sitting, existing now. With once we build the buildings, if we think we need to take it down temporarily so it doesn't get damaged during construction, or ideally we keep it right where it is, and we'll just see how that goes. But it'll be ideally as close to the existing location or in the same location as it is.
Well, I really commend you for the vision and all of your stick-with-itness that you have for downtown and our city, and wish you all the best with that project and the others. But we'll maybe get you back when we get closer to opening that a few months from now. But thank you so much for taking the time today.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you, Randy.
That's our show for today. I'd like to thank our guest, Brent Suer, and thank all of you for watching. I'm your host, Randy Shabilo. We'll see you next time on Connect.